Well, to discuss this report's sweeping indictment of the CIA's detention and interrogation program, along with its ramifications, I'm joined by Associate Professor Brendon O'Connor. He's from the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Brendon O'Connor, this report gives a macabre account of the brutal techniques used by the CIA, but should anyone really be shocked about what went on after September the 11th?
I think we should be shocked because of the nature of these reports. They're horrendous acts. I mean, the acts of the government in some ways lost its way. But this information had been out there. I mean, Amnesty International had shown this over a number of years. Mark Danner has done a good job of reporting on this. So it's not really entirely news, but it's the level of it and the official recognition of it is very important.
This report was a long time in the making. It took about 4 or 5 years to actually compile, and there was another 2-year-long battle in order to get at least parts of it released, which is what we've seen today. Was that the right thing to do, to publicly account for what America has done?
You hope so. I mean, you hope the government will learn from this. I mean, this is the most important element of it. It was pretty ineffective. It besmirches the name of the United States in many regards, and I think Barack Obama recognised this. He admitted it was torture, a word that the Bush administration wouldn't use. So you'd hope there'd be learning from it, but there's also another side of it, which will just make it more secret next time. The Republicans denying it should have been released, and in fact claiming that these techniques were effective in some way.
Should this be ringing alarm bells, though, because the report concludes that the CIA provided extensive inaccurate information, not only to the Justice Department, but to the Congress, even to the White House itself, let alone members of the American public. Is that a warning sign for any future administration?
Well, it doesn't paint a very happy picture of the CIA. I mean, the CIA doesn't come out of this looking very good. It looks like the CIA is a pretty ineffective organisation, and there's a combination of being brutal and also inefficient or having major management problems isn't, I suppose, a ringing endorsement of an agency that's had its own problems, many different heads of the CIA. So it's got real problems.
Yeah, the CIA has responded today. It says it acknowledges that the program had some shortcomings and that it made some mistakes, but it's also still claiming that these enhanced interrogation techniques, as they call them, provided valuable intelligence that thwarted attacks and saved lives. Do you think there might be a bit of a reorganisation of America's intelligence agencies as a result?
You'd hope so. I mean, to claim that when there's so little evidence, I really think in this report, that this did save lives, that this was a really effective thing. I mean, people who were wrongly accused were tortured, people died in these circumstances. And even for the little scraps of information that I think was able to be gained, the negative side of more people being incited to violence, the negative consequence we saw on the news today of embassies on high alert, suggests this is a public relations disaster. So to think of this as a successful program, I think is a nonsense. This was a disaster.
What should America's allies, countries like Australia, take from this?
Well, I suppose we were involved in Guantanamo Bay. I mean, there was a long period where our government defended what was going on there, David Hicks being there, obviously. So I think there's a sense that it's not just the Americans who were endorsing this. I mean, many of the allies were endorsing this. So it's a moment to kind of reflect on how the war on terror got priorities set on the wrong track, or got thinking in a very peculiar way set on the wrong track.
Is it possible that there's not only a threat to America's interests overseas, for example in embassies and the like, but could it undermine America's attempts to take up the fight to Islamic State militants in Iraq and Syria, for example?
I think so. I mean, it just makes the case for seeing the US as a just actor a lot harder, to see the US when it says things to be trusted. So on those grounds, and those are important grounds of credibility, this just is a damaging blow.
All right, Brendon O'Connor, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure.